I mean, I don't even think we need an intro.
Yeah,
this is
nice.
the intro. I did want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. You know, we had connected through the motorcycle industry through my show. And, you know, it's always cool when you see different people not only watching the content, but also commenting on the content. Especially I'm in a period right now where I'm in the building out the audience phase. And it's so hard a lot of the times because, you know, you'll put so much energy into something, put it out, and you get 2 views, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so
I know how that is.
I see constantly a couple different people who not only watch but share but also comment, and you're one of those people that have consistently had said nice, kind things to keep me going.
Oh, man.
And I wanted to say those mean so much to me, and so thank you so much for being that type of person to see something and share your comment on something.
Yeah.
So I already liked you right away, and then I'm like, oh, who is this guy? And then I look, I'm like, holy shit, because I am a massive Star Wars fan. I've told this story multiple times over the podcast that I was raised by a single mother, and I didn't have a father, and so Harrison Ford was my father figure. I was either watching Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Scoundrel,
Scoundrel,
yes,
or Star Wars, and I must have watched. I mean, Empire Strikes Back is probably the one I've. Return of the Jedi is pretty cool too, but seeing that you've been involved with the Star Wars industry was so amazing because I had never known anybody who's done that. So, and then to find out how you got into the space is so inspiring to me, and I'm sure once we hear your story, so inspiring to so many other people.
Oh, man. Well, I love the stuff that you're making, and, you know, it's stuff that I would watch entire, you know, shows about. So, so anyway, and I love that you're in filmmaking, that's how that grew out of that, your interest, and you're just making stuff that you would want to watch. Anyway, this is the secret, I think, to success of really quality work is just make the stuff that you want to see.
Well, you don't mean taking the money and doing the stuff that you don't want to do is not the formula?
Well, that's you have to do that to survive sometimes,
true.
But in the meantime, yes,
yeah. So that all being said, I kind of wanted to use this platform to kind of talk about how you created your own dream job and kind of what you're doing now, and then talk about AI at the end of this because that seems to be the ongoing topic, especially with being able to, you know, create so many different roles on screen.
Right.
We risk not having actors. We risk not having all these other people.
Yeah.
So that all being said, when did your love for or film cinema begin? Our last guest didn't get into it until she was 20. When did the love for cinema happen for you?
I was 7 years old in 1977, and I had an experience in a movie theater that ignited my imagination. That there was storytelling, there was myth making. It all felt real, even if not factual. It all felt real, and that was Star Wars. My parents, who have always been so supportive of me, my mom used to say, or she still says, you were never bored as a kid. You were so good at entertaining yourself. And I was like, there's so much to be entertained by, you know? So this experience, I wish everyone could feel what that was like in a theater where you don't go home in 2 weeks. You can binge, you know, or multiple times rewatch the same movie. It was one-time experience. Or you go out, buy another ticket and go back in, or you just sit there till they start it again. And then you take it home, and your mind is recording every possible thing you can. And then I'd go home and I'd buy the action figures, and I'd go in the shag carpet of my living room and make up these stories that were continuing spin-off stories of what I just saw. You know, everybody has Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, but what about the powered droid and Snaggletooth? You know, like what's their story? Right, exactly. And mashups and everything. And so having this experience of learning about storytelling and making it feel so real was something I wish everybody could feel, because it just completely what's the word? Launch the trajectory of my life. But at the time, I didn't know that's what was happening. It was just, I'm so enraptured by this idea of characters and storytelling that I was practicing that at home on my own and creating characters and making up names and making up other stories. So that was, for me, the beginning of my appreciation for cinema. And like I said, there was no promise of sequels. There was no promise of any television or anything. Maybe if you're lucky, a movie would come up on TV 4 years later.
And if you missed it,
yeah, you're done.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't have VHS at the time. We did later, but in those early days, it was such a special thing to be able to go to the theater and watch a movie with a whole bunch of other people who were all excited as you were. So that was it for me.
Yeah, it's funny you brought the action figures thing. I've talked about this as well. Michael over here, one of our producers, I was playing with G.I. Joes and Star Wars figures all the way until almost 8th grade.
Yeah.
Like closeted.
So that's 13? Yeah,
I'm a teenager still going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my friends would come over and see, my action. Do you play with these dolls? And I'd be like, no, man, they're just cool. And then as soon as they'd leave, I'd be like, but that's same for me. That's how my love for cinema started, was playing with action figures. I can remember all the way till 2 years old, my birthday cake had Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker as the candles.
Right.
I couldn't even play. They weren't action. They were candle version. I was still like playing with them at that age. At 2 years old, it was crazy. But the love for cinema, it grabs you, and then like you said, you don't even know it's happening until you can look back in retrospect and see that. I remember I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first, part 1, and I remember I came home and immediately broke the broom off of the stick off the broom, and was Donatello for a full week and a half, and I was 40 years old. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
But no, I think I have similar experiences with that, and I think at that age, the idea of even working in film industry wasn't even a thing. Like, I lived in Northern California. I wasn't in L.A. I didn't know anybody that did any kind of filmmaking, but the storytelling is what was really grabbed me for that. Yeah.
When I was 13 when I stopped playing with my action figures. That was when Return of the Jedi came out. But what happened was there was a show on TV called The Making of Star Wars. So this is after the whole trilogy has come out. And for me, I've already experienced what for me was such an epic, storytelling experience. But then to find out there are people who do the animatronics, or people who design the props, or a matte painter, or a concept artist, or a guy who's doing the lighting. And I'm like, wow, people do this for a job. And that's when I decided. I was 13, and I said, one day I want to work for George Lucas.
No way.
Yeah. That's truth. And but I didn't know how. Also, there was no promise of any other Star Wars. So I just knew that I wanted to work with ILM and George Lucas someday. But then regular life happens, and you go to school, and you get people telling you, oh, you're not going to make any money doing that. You need to find a regular job. And then, you get married and have kids, and life, happens. And then later, as an adult, was when I came back to it through building props and costumes.
And so I wanted to talk, when did you start developing the skills to build stuff with your hands? Because I didn't have a father, so it's not like I had a garage with tools to go in and I could start learning. Like, how did that come to be? Or was that a later in your...
I would say the earliest manifestation of that was I loved building car models, like plastic, car models, 124 kits, yeah. But also my dad, I loved old cars, and my dad always made time to work on my old cars with me in the garage. So it was like hands-on, trying stuff. I mean, I think with most dads, they're doing the work and you're holding the flashlight. But he always made time for me in that way, and so I could try stuff in an environment that was low pressure, you know.
Because it's very intimidating to work on car. Like even now, I look at an engine and there's a level of intimidation. So to build stuff with my hands I don't have that. So that's amazing that you were able to develop that in that space.
Well, I learned it was just nuts and bolts. A large part of it is nuts and bolts. If you can undo a bolt and put one back on, now you can replace the fuel pump, you know. So it was really just like, okay, I can't do or take all this in, but I could do this one part. And so that's really, you know, what I've been doing. I haven't done body work. I haven't done electrical, but I can do a lot of replacing parts, swapping stuff out, you know, and it just came from just, I'm going to try this and I will fail, but I'm just going to get that one out of the way and then I'll try it again. And yeah.
And so when did the idea first come to start building props?
Yeah. I went on to be a graphic designer. So I had been working in video games for 20 years and you know, ad agencies and designing logos and marketing stuff and heads-up displays for Gears of War or targeting reticles for, you know, Call of Duty. And so I was doing all that stuff. But I saw this guy with a terrible Star Wars costume website. And I was like, I wrote him and I go, I will redesign your website in trade for a Stormtrooper costume. And he was like, okay, sold. So I redesigned his website and got my first like kit. And so this was just an assembly situation. It wasn't like designing it or it wasn't like building it from scratch. So I got the feeling for building basically a big model like I used to do the cars. Now I'm doing a life-size model that I could wear. Well, like, where am I going to wear this? It's too cool to wear just for Halloween. So I went online, I started looking for like astronomy events that I could wander in as a stormtrooper, but I wanted to play him for real. And so I put a microphone in it and I worked on the, all right, we'll check it out, you know, voice. And then I started doing that. Well, then I found other people who were doing this. This is in 2001.
So this is before like YouTube. This is before like,
I don't know when YouTube happened.
I think like 2007 around there.
Yeah,
but even until 2014, there was not a lot there.
Yeah, so I went to an event. I ran into somebody who also had a suit, and they turned me into other friends, and that's how I found like the 501st, which is a really big fan-run Imperial costuming group. So then I started doing events with them. But the whole thing was I wanted to play characters. And it wasn't enough to just wear the costume. I wanted to create the illusion that this was a character from set in a performance, not telling people that, just in the performance. Like, and so I started doing, Stormtroopers, you know, and then I built a Boba Fett costume, which took years to do. You know, this is like, okay, one guy makes the gauntlet darts, one guy makes the backpack, you know, the jetpack, one guy makes the helmet or whatever. And so it took years to put together that. But then I could play Boba Fett with a microphone and the amplifier and talk to people, you know, what if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me. And then I could entertain people at Comic-Cons or hospitals, children's hospitals or whatever. And then then the snowball was rolling. Like, and then I built a Tusken Raider and I built Jawas for my kids and, you know, Twi'leks for my daughters and Gonk Droid for my daughter. And then it came to, I'd never seen anyone do a chrome C-3PO. And how does that happen? And so I started with like, you know, one part, like a foot, like what does a foot look like? How do you get this? Oh, some obscure collector has a copy of a screen used foot. Cool. I'll get that, but it's just a hunk of resin. How do I can't wear that. How can I figure out how to wear that? And then I'd find somebody who had like a fiberglass shop and I'm like, could you cast this so I could wear it? But then we tried a bunch of materials, and anyway, it was just like one thing at a time. Like how could we do a hand? There was different ways and iterations of these in the films. In the first one, these were heavy brass parts, and then in Empire Strikes Back, it was an all one-piece rubber glove, or like a urethane composite glove. And then I, worked with a friend who could cast in urethane, and we tried so many different versions of it until I could find one that I could barely squeeze onto my hand. And I wore that for a while. But then I was like, this is all before 3D printing.
And so all of this is just out of the pure passion. There's no like, hey, I'm getting paid. You're doing your job.
Yeah.
And then you're
job.
on your side. You're just going full extent on building and prototyping and like.
Yeah. So I go to
incredible.
work at my video game job at Epic Games. Then I would come home and have dinner and tuck my kids into bed and do the story time. And then I go out in the garage and work till 2 a.m. And then just go as late as I could and go, okay, I got to go to bed. And then I just kept doing that for years with just anything. There was no career path or trajectory, or I didn't know anybody anywhere. It was just doing it because I wanted to do it. I had no pressure of like deadlines or, there's the pressure of budget, but okay, so you work with that. Like I can't afford to buy molds or create molds of screen used parts or anything. So I'll just build stuff out of off the shelf things and see how close I can get.
That's what I was going to ask. So where do you get yours? I mean, are you at Home Depot going through the scene? Are you going to, where do you, in those early days?
The early days, I was building Stormtrooper blaster out of like PVC parts using reference from screenshots. And I'm like, okay, and so I complete one, but it's like too small. The scale is too small. Okay, so get that one out of the way. Now I'll build another one. And sprinkler parts for droid, looks are droids. It's just a sprinkler part, so I was making stuff out of nothing. And then when I'd get done with that, maybe I'd sell it on eBay, and now I could raise a little bit of money to make the next thing. And but it was really the early days, just making stuff out of nothing, and go like, okay, I'm mildly happy with that. Now I want to do a version 2 and see if I could do better.
And so you could essentially take that money that you sold it and kind of roll it into hiring somebody that could make you a mold for it, right?
Yeah,
that sort of thing,
right.
And then just kind of upgrading as you're going.
Yeah, it's kind of like you heard of the guy who traded up to a car.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that, but the whole way while I was doing it, I was documenting some of the information, and then I go on the prop forum that it was called the Replica Prop Forum. And RPF, Replica Prop Forum, yeah, and then I would share what I found, and it's like, this is like a crappy version. It's not a cast of a real thing, but if you don't have the funds to buy a casting of something that was really used, you could do it yourself.
And are you doing step-by-step kind of photos and writing?
Yes,
wow,
yeah. And so I do
so
little screenshots of, okay, this is what it looks like when it's unpainted, or these are the parts you get at Home Depot or whatever. So that was early days where you're just trying to approximate something that you've seen on screen. Now you can just go click and it prints out something that's screen accurate and good. That's great for hobbyists who want it now, just want to wear it, but don't want to invest in the creation of it. Yeah.
Which is totally cool.
Yeah, exactly. Have fun doing it. I'm all for technology helping people complete their thing that they wanted to, if they don't know how to do it and don't know anyone how to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so at this point, is your family looking at you going, man, this guy's crazy. He's like this mad genius working on this? Or was there like an excitement? What was...
it was like, it's like playing with your dolls.
Yeah.
Kind of like, oh, okay, that's the thing you do. And, as long as we don't go into debt over it, And I was like, no, I got this, I'm painting sprinkler parts and selling them as droid replica parts. And I say, that I just made this. I'm not saying that it's from, an accurate piece, but it looks like it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, it wasn't really a money-making operation. It was really just like funding the next thing I want to make. And then I would just try that. But all the while trying to share back to people who were generous to me, sharing with other people. So I made a website that I would just document all my stuff, and people could just go there for free and find out.
And what was the website?
It was tk409.com. Mm-hmm. And it was like a magazine layout of different projects, like how to make Jawa eyes, how to make a harness system for your stormtrooper outfit. And it was just everything I would just share.
Because of your graphic design and all these other things, you knew how to do that in a nice, presentable way.
So
you're now reusing all the things that you already are good at to help amplify. Right. And especially in a time where, I think we were talking about this before, like off camera, that gatekeeping and not sharing proprietary type stuff is such a big, I was telling you when I was working for a couple of reality shows, I was an assistant cameraman. I was asking cameramen, what is this lens and how does this? And I was getting the most broad, no share answers, and they were purposely not trying to create competition. But talk to me about why you felt so wanting to give back and sharing your proprietary secrets and kind of walking through people like that, because there's a lot of, I don't want to share this.
Right. What? And there's, in hobbies, there's always elitists where they will treat knowledge as a gate to keep that they're the master, the key master of this. And, that's one way to be part of the community. Another part is I just felt like it was such a treasure that somebody who shared something that has already gone and done all the homework and stuff, that they would share this online. And there was none of us were like employed doing this. It was just like, we're just in a hobby. And, but there were always some people who were like, I have a casting, and maybe they would overstate the provenance of this particular piece. And because there was no 3D printing, they were the only ones who had a mold to this. So they would, it might be like $800 to buy a casting of a replica of a screen-used Stormtrooper blaster, say. Okay, so maybe one day I'll be able to afford to get one of those. But for now, I'm going to share how to make something out of nothing. And then for the people who are this other level, this sort of my level of we're just having fun. Yeah. Also, I felt like the more fun we're having, the more fun there will be to have. What if, then I started doing photography where I go to like construction sites dressed as a Tusken Raider with a PVC pipe, gaffy stick that I made, and then I would shoot it to make it look like the production, like it was a production still. And then I would say, hey, I just went to a construction site on a Saturday and found a safe spot, and it looks like Tatooine, but in my costume. Wow. And then I would just share that, and so it could help other people, achieve their dream of having something that looked like it could be screen accurate. I just felt people shared with me. I want to share with other people because I'm a nerd. I would love it if someone did that. I loved it when someone did that for me.
And same, because I experienced that so young, so often, so young in my career, that I made it a point to always want to give back and help share. And now, even with the Origins series, I'll have people DMing me now, especially like I get at least 5 a month of people that I don't even know. It's just saying, I love your show, and asking me questions. And I'm so like, that first initial like, oh my God, I've worked so hard to get here. But then it's like, as time goes on, I'm just sharing. I'm like, you have a question, here's the answer, here's how I'm doing it. And it's been so cool to be able to see other people now creating stuff and then can come back and say, thank you so much. And that's almost like the feeling that I get seeing that and help. I mean, I'm getting the chills right now talking about it. Like, it's such a cool vibe to do that. And I think that's kind of the part of the whole reason of doing this podcast, is that I can give back and help create resources for people who want to get in the industry or who are in the industry, don't know how to pivot. So,
well, Billy, what you're doing is you're putting out into, we'll say, the galaxy. You're putting out there and that will always come back to you. I was talking to a physicist, and I don't know if this is totally real, but I have found in every success that I've had that no effort is wasted. All the tries and fails lead to some little success, and then that leads to a bigger success. And then at one point, after all of this energy that you're putting out, none of it being wasted, because we know energy in the universe, it never dissipates, it just transfers into something else. That at some point, all of that energy explodes in like a Big Bang situation in your life, where it's not something you could have orchestrated, it's not something that you planned or through some contact, it's just that you were always trying. You were always doing this, creating or keeping the energy momentum,
inertia going,
right?
Yeah.
And then at some point, and I'll tell you an example of this, at some point it blows up into something that was 1,000 times bigger than you could have imagined. And it's not because you calculated that, it was just because you kept going. And someone sees it, or someone is, there's some opportunity that happens that you wouldn't have been prepared for if you hadn't always, been working on it. So that's what I tell people, is just keep going. Even if today you can only shoot, a wheel spinning, maybe that's all you can shoot today. And then tomorrow you'll do something else. And then one day someone will come to you and go, hey, I love what you're doing. Could you do that for us? And you're like, I don't know. But you say, yeah, because you did this. Maybe you can do that.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's something I don't know how it all works. But this Big Bang situation from your momentum has been something that's happened in every stage of my career that's been successful.
And that totally segues into creating this opportunity to be in the Star Wars universe, which is, it's so cool. And like all the interviews that I've been watching on YouTube, so let's walk us through who hasn't seen that.
Yeah.
So you're in your garage, you're developing all these props, these costumes. When is that moment where it leaps into your career?
Yeah.
Like,
so I spent 3 years building. I mentioned I'd never seen anyone do a chrome C-3PO. So costume. So I spent 3 years. I never knew if it was going to work at the end, but I just kept going. And so I finally finished it, but it was all rattle can gold. It wasn't chrome. So I put it on. My buddy Chris Sanders, he dressed me in it, and then we went to this event. It was at a museum. It was a Star Wars museum opening in Boston, and I was just a fan. So I put it on. I'm walking around. I was working on the voice. It was terrible at the time, but I was just trying it. And he took a little video of me walking in the suit and just turning to someone saying, hello. And I had a friend at Lucasfilm, Chris Bartlett. He worked in licensing. I had met him because George Lucas had invited people in, I grew up in Northern California too, invited people in costume to come do this media event. We were just like stormtroopers in a parking lot directing traffic. It was like, it looked great. And then afterwards they invited us to this after party. You can suit down and meet people who work at Lucasfilm. Oh, cool. So you just talk, you just naturally get into conversations with people, and they're asking about what are you doing and what's your background and stuff. And then we just became friends. And then whenever I would build another costume, I would just send it to my friend Chris, because we're both nerds. That's it. There was no, I would never presume that he would then pass it along or anything like that. I was just like, hey man, I made this new thing, check it out. And he saw this video of me walking in the suit. Again, it looks terrible. It was I made it all weathered. It was not shiny, but it had the structure, and I was doing a performance. And so hold that. Now I'm back in my garage, and I'm trying to upgrade the suit, and I'm like, I really want to get this chromed. I don't know how I'm going to pay for that because, I have to send it out to L.A. I was living in North Carolina at the time. I have to send it out to L.A. to this place that does it. So I packed it all up, sent it to them, and they were like, that'll be $1,500. And I was like, oh, crap. So anyway, I was like, go ahead. I'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And while it's gone, because the whole dream, if 3 years of building this, the whole dream is, wouldn't it be cool if Lucasfilm saw it and gave me a thumbs up, like, hey, good job. Mm. And also, wouldn't it be cool if they said, hey, good job. By the way, we would like to use this for something. That's the ultimate dream. But of course, that's never going to happen because I'm just a nerd in my garage at 2 a.m. playing with plastic, Yeah. And so this one day, I get an email from Lucasfilm. And they said, hey, we're interested in talking to you about your costume. And I was like, oh, cool. And they were like, we'd like to use it. And we'd like to use it in 2 weeks. And I was like, amazing. However, I have the worst timing in the universe. I've sent it off, and it's not going to be ready in time. And they were like, well, where is it? I said, it's in Rancho Cucamonga at this chroming facility. And they were like, oh, we know that one. That's the shop that actually chromed the original C-3PO.
And did you know that?
No.
Wow.
So
small world.
They said, hang on. And they got on the phone. They're like, hi, you have a C-3PO costume there. We need it done this week, not in 5 weeks. And they were like, okay, no problem. And so Lucasfilm said, hey, we'll chrome it for you.
Wow.
We'll pay to have it chrome for you. And I was like, amazing. This is incredible. Okay, so we'll have it shipped up to Lucasfilm, and we're going to fly you out. You can finish assembling it at Lucasfilm at the Presidio, and then we'll put you in it, and we'll see how that goes. And I was like, cool. They were like, do you have a passport? And I said, I can get one. So I got a passport, and they flew me out there. I spent 4 hours assembling it. Finally, all chromed and everything, and this is just the greatest day of this little nerd's life. Wow. And then they bolted me into the suit. Wow. And they just wanted to see the movement that they saw me doing in the video. So it was a movement audition. So I did that. But Billy, I really wanted to nail this audition. So the lights were working. I had the microphone and the amplifier working. So I did my little walk around and stuff, and I turned to them with these eyes. I said, oh, my goodness. Why, hello. I am C-3PO, Human Cyborg Relations, Master William. I'm fluent in over 6 million forms. And they're like, oh, okay, that's enough. You're going to go to Australia.
Wow.
I was like, oh, wow. And I thought it was just kind of like a substitute day. This just today, we just need you to do this.
Bring the fan to...
Great. Yeah. And that's technically what it was, but it was also an extended audition, and we filmed this, or it was this media event. And when I got back, they were like, "Wow, the media really believed that it was a real robot and couldn't understand how we were doing this." And I'm like, "Wow, what? That's amazing!" And so I was like, "Well, hey, you ever need me again, give me a call. This is really a lot of fun."
Yeah.
And I just tried to be easy to work with and be reliable and on time. And I came with ideas, And then I got another call for, a McDonald's commercial. And then another call for...
and what year is this?
2006.
2006, wow.
Yeah.
And so the previous person who had been playing this...
Grant Imahara.
And so what happened with that?
He moved on to Mythbusters.
Oh. And then, so they had a vacancy, and you just happened...
And it just happened to be that moment. So if I hadn't been working on it all this time, or if I hadn't sent it off to be chromed, it wouldn't have been ready. Right. They would have been like, I would have had it at home. Yeah. And there wouldn't have been time to ship it and chrome and all that stuff. So that's why I say, just keep going, keep putting effort into this, something that you love, while also surviving at your day job, because you never know when this big bang is going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's insane. Okay,
Yeah.
so wow. So I there's so much I want to go on that, but I also, when you're in your garage building this, what does that look like? Like, are you taking plastic and bending it? What is the process? How do you even?
Right.
What is that process?
Like I said, none of us do this alone. So I had a friend who had a fiberglass shop, and but he didn't know anything about the C-3PO costume. But I had done a huge amount of research, like meticulously looking at every screenshot and talking to anybody who was ever historically related to, even in some small, and picking up little details all along the way. And then he would work on, I would do like a 3D model. This is before, like I said, before printing. It's a very rudimentary 3D program. I was using, it was 3ds Max. And I did like the elevation of the knees, how the knees have to work together. And then I'd send him that. And then I'd say, can you fabricate something like that? And he was just using like cardstock.
Wow.
And then but then when he would make a mold of it, now it's fiberglass, and that little cardstock now looks like a machined piece of metal. And we spent 3 years doing that, back and forth and back and forth.
Are you measuring yourself? I mean, how are you like?
Yes, but I had parts that I was trying to work from. Like I found a collector who had like a torso, but it was all misshapen. Oh. And I was like, let's restore this to what it might look like in A New Hope. And so I had all the drawings and measurements, and I'm like, this is how we should do this. And he would cut it up and sculpt over it or something. So like I said, none of us do this stuff on our own. Sure. Then I had a friend who had a vacuform machine which heats plastic and then sucks it down over your shape. Right? Yeah. And now you've got a plastic piece of that. So different parts of the costume are made out of different materials. Wow. Some fiberglass, some resin, some vacuform plastic. And I just figured out which pieces would work for what. Wow. Sometimes urethane rubber. And I would contact my friends who knew how to do that one thing really well. And then, so it's kind of like a producer job, but then also a fabricator job, because now the parts would arrive in the mail, and now it would go, okay, now I have to figure out how this should work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's all in theory until you actually get to it, and then you're like, oh, this is not enough lining, right. And then you're And
then I put on the chest, and I find out, oh, it's too small. So now
you have to go all the way
back and go like, okay, how do we modify this? And so we figured that out.
Wow.
Again, it was just so that I could go to Comic-Cons or museum openings just for fun, because I wanted to see if I could do it. Yeah. And then when I did, it turned out to be believable enough. Wow. Anthony Daniels is the original actor who plays C-3PO. He's 80 now, and but this audition happened 20 years ago. And so every live action appearance of C-3PO on television or in the media over the last 20 years has been me. And again, like I said, I was working on the voice. Well, I was just listening to the DVDs on the way to and from work for 80 minutes a day, and I would try to replicate. And when I first started, it was so bad. It was like, sounded like an old lady. Oh, R2-D2. That's like, that's awful.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
It's not here. It's not here. Maybe it's somewhere, from there. And when I did it for them, they were like, well, we have a voice guy, but it's good to know you know how to do that. And then I started getting calls to do the voice. And now it's been in games and on television and commercials. Gosh, I feel so lucky now to be part of the legacy of this character.
Yeah. And do you have a relationship with Anthony at all? Or what was that?
Yeah. So he's been lovely to me. We've worked on several projects together. Maybe he'll do the voice and I'll be in the suit. Or maybe he authorizes me to do the voice and to be in the suit, because they always go to him first. Obviously, they should, and so I defer to him on everything. So I'm not making calls saying, "Hey, can I get in it?" It's just like I'm home doing my own thing, and then I get a call saying from Lucasfilm, "We'd like you to do this." Great. That means that they've already called him. So we don't go to the movies together.
Sure.
But and he has his suit, and I have my suit, and never the twain shall cross. But it works, and I'm grateful to be, like I said, part of the legacy of this character.
And then have you got to meet and hang out with George Lucas?
Yeah.
What is that like?
He's a bit of an introvert, but he is, his people have said, don't spend too much time, don't talk to George, whatever. And that's because he will spend all day talking to you about stories and myth and characters and, all that, because he wants to tell stories. But that is just the tip of the iceberg of what happened after this first role. Because my first role as an actor is C-3PO.
Wow.
From one audition.
That is insane.
Yeah. And then when they started making The Mandalorian, I'm skipping ahead, but
sure.
When they started making The Mandalorian, my buddy Tim, who sculpted this, was working on The Mandalorian. And they were looking for a bounty hunter droid actor who's comfortable in a suit with limited vision and could maybe bring energy to this mechanical character. And he knew about me, and he mentioned to the folks over at Legacy Effects who were building Q90 from The Mandalorian. Hey, Chris has been playing C-3PO for years. He could play a droid. You should bring him for a screen test. So I went in for a screen test. And I was like, a bounty hunter?
Wow.
I've always loved Boba Fett.
Yeah.
What, I play C-3PO. What would that be like? And it's just such a dream.
So do you have to develop your own voice for that? Or do they have ideas? Like, this is kind of what we're hearing?
Role. Yeah, that's the role of the actor. The director says, we want a droid bounty hunter. Then the studio builds that. And now it's up to the actor to, come up with what's his voice sound like, or what is his movement, what's his energy. He's not going to move like C-3PO because he's a cold killing machine. This is all me.
Walk me through this. This is amazing. I've never even...
Yeah, so as an actor, the director relies on the actor to come up with really the personality, the cadence of his voice, or his movement. And so I like to build in layers. So when I got there, I see the concept art. He looks like a bug. What kind of bug? Oh, he looks like a praying mantis. How do praying mantises move? I did the initial screen test just as kind of like a cold Boba Fett kind of a character. But as when I found out I got the role, I researched praying mantis videos with really kind of terrifying close up.
Yeah.
They have these mandibles that are grinding gears, and and they have such a creepy stillness to them, which if you've studied acting at all, stillness is really the most powerful, because there's not all this animation. I know I animate a lot naturally, so I really have to try and focus to be still. And that's what I did with Zero. So I pictured, he's a droid, he's a bug, he's a praying mantis, who's a cold killing machine. And what else do I know? Oh, he has a Cockney accent. So they built the suit at Legacy. I put a microphone and amplifier in the suit so that on set, the other actors could play off of me, and I was doing this low, gravelly Cockney accent.
Can you give me an example of that?
Despite recent modifications, your ship is still quite a mess. The fuel lines are leaking. The navigation is intermittent, and the hyperdrive is operating at only 69.3% efficiency. We have much better ships than this. Why are we using this one?
And so I'm doing that on set. And reading the script also informs what, he's the smartest guy on the crew and he knows that. That's fun to play against Mando, who doesn't trust droids. And so I try to get a little too close to him, in scenes.
Smart.
Right.
Just to
make him uncomfortable.
Yes.
Genius. But it's just like, I'm a nerd. I want to see, this is what I would like to see on set. This cool droid bounty hunter who's making everybody uncomfortable. So that initial screen test, they put the outfit on me, and I have the time from where the costume is located to where the screening area is, I have from here to there to figure out what I'm going to do.
Wow.
You know, you don't want to go over there and go, okay, tell me what to do. He wants,
give me 4 hours to figure this out, right?
The director wants to be able to know that you've got some idea. You're not this hollow vessel, you know. So I was like, as I'm walking in this bug droid outfit, I don't think I have a blaster at this point, but I'm walking around. I've got like ammo belts and armor. And as I'm walking, I'm stopping by each table of people who are like painting or sculpting at Legacy Effects, and I would just like stare at what they're doing, and then they would look up at me, and I would just like slowly look up at them, and I would stare a little too long, and then I'd move on, and they would go, "Oh wow, that's so creepy," and I was like, "Yes, that's what I'm going for." So I'm just playing though. I'm just trying stuff because maybe that's not what he wants. So we go do the screen test, and he goes, "Okay, act like you're looking for something." And so I'm like, as a bug, just moving my head. And then he goes, okay, why don't you jerk your head like you heard something? And so I do that. And that was part of the scene where Zero's looking for Grogu in the ship. And so anyway, that was the first role in The Mandalorian that I got.
And so, wow, there's some incredible. This is, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're in taking on a new character, is that process, one, intimidating, but two, like, have you ever brought something to somebody and they say not quite it, and then you have to have a backup then and there, or is it like, talk about a time that might have happened?
As an actor, you always need to have alternates.
Smart.
So like when you do an audition, again, it's just your version of this. And that's what Gil Younger, director that I'm a fan of, he said one time, often the director doesn't know what he wants until he sees your take on it. So they just have like the script, they have just words, and they may have like a character design or a concept or something, but they don't know really how he's going to move through the scene or how he's going to interact with other characters. They may have a general idea, but really they want to see what you bring to it. So when you do an audition, the first thing that comes to your mind is often what most people will come up with. Most actors will come up. So do that, but also have in your mind, well, what if it was the opposite of what I would normally think? You know, the George Costanza philosophy, right? Yeah. Like, what if every inclination you had was wrong, you know, and you did the opposite? So I try to have that, and then I try to have a third one that's kind of in between. And so one example is the ferryman. He was the first character that I play who appears in The Mandalorian. He was a snouted goggle character who's out on the ice calling speeders over. And so when we went for, also all the lines were in English. They weren't in an alien language. And so we go to the rehearsal. First I did the fitting, and they were like, "Yep, this is fine." There was no audition other than you fit the suit. And then when we went to the rehearsal, I'm there with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and Brendan Wayne, who was in the suit for Mando, and a couple other people. And they were like, "Okay, let's run through your scene." So I was looking at this character as, okay, he's out on the ice. He's alone. He's probably lonely, cold, really trying to do his job. What if he sounded like an old Soviet car salesman? And this is the layer thing I'm talking about, because the more layers you put on something, the more unique it will be from anyone else. It's just like, oh, he's calling speeders.
Yep.
You know, so Soviet used car salesman. So what would that sound like?
But I assure you, this speeder is brand new. It just arrived on the Spinwood freighter.
And John says, "Okay, that's good. Let's cartoon it down a little." I go, "Okay, yeah, I could do that." And so then I, just made it sound a little different. That's taking direction.
So show me what that would be like in that direction that you just did.
Oh, it would be less colorful and a little more baseline.
So
like,
show me that.
Yeah,
But I assure you, this speeder is brand new. It just arrived on the Spinwood freighter.
So it's not so like bubbly, kind of animated.
Right, yeah.
A little more like just monotone. And he was like, okay. I don't know if we're going to use an alien language, and then there's some discussion about that. But ultimately, it was a collaboration. On set, I was doing the Soviet car salesman voice, and then ultimately they used an alien language because that made more sense for that species and the story.
They don't speak English across the entire galaxy.
Right. Basic, as they call it in the Star Wars universe. But, there's always going to be, I never ask permission to do something creative. I just do it. And then there's always a take two, or there's always direction like, okay, let's try that this way. Do it louder or more urgent, or you're terrified, that kind of stuff. Okay, yeah, I can try that. And so, like with Copper in season 3 of The Mandalorian, he's shiny like C-3PO. He's almost the same color. He's bronze, but I was like, let's see, Grief Karga is restoring Navarro to its original glory. It's prosperous now. He has great taste, so he's got a brand new shiny droid. It's probably brand new though. Doesn't maybe have a lot of experience. So maybe if I played him like a teenage C-3PO, where he wants to be helpful, he's all clean. He obviously doesn't have all the experience and dents that C-3PO might have. Doesn't have all the data. So he's always running in, trying to be helpful, but most people already know what he's reporting on. But so that's how I played him as a personality. The biggest challenge, though, was I couldn't see out of the helmet. So because the eyes are covered, if you go watch, those are not CG eyes. Those are actual LED lit lenses that are green. And with C-3PO, you can see through the straw
holes, right?
tubes there, but with Copper, the eyes are covered.
And so how do you navigate that? And then do you have time to even play with that on set, or is it like helmet on, go, we're filming?
Well, I practiced a little bit on my own time, because you don't get any character rehearsal time.
Yeah.
You get scene rehearsal time. So in between, I'm trying stuff, and I got my dresser, Dana Gasser, who was my partner in a lot of some of the fabricating, and he would have my phone, and I would say, I want to try something. Can you just film it and then let me see it and see if that's reading? Because I'll get into that later. Wearing the costume, you have to perform differently than if you weren't wearing armor. That's a different level of energy you have to put into it. But anyway, so okay, I'm practicing it. I'm looking at it, recording of it. Okay, now we put it on. I can't see anything, but I've estimated. Okay, I have to go about 12 steps that way. Halfway through, I have to turn and say, "It's pirates," and then I have to turn around and run out of the room before Carl Weathers tackles me. So you just rehearse it. I've got another great Carl Weathers story that I'll share with you in a minute. But anyway, those are some of the challenges.
Wow. Yeah, that's also what I wanted to get into, like working with Pedro and Carl. And what are some of the cool instances that you had with both of those?
Yeah. Carl, who sadly we lost a couple of years ago. When I got to set, everyone saw him as a legend, 10-foot tall action star that we all grew up with, right? But Carl, he was just at work, and he just wanted to tell great stories with interesting characters in dynamic ways, and he wanted to do that with you. It didn't matter that I was some nerd who bumbled onto a set because I like to play characters in costumes. It was, and that's how I felt every day on set. Is someone going to discover that I'm accidentally here, But anyway, this thing that Carl, who is a director and an actor, did. I would come onto set. As actors, you want to think of what is this character doing 8 seconds before they say action. You want to already be in that motion. You don't want to just be still and then go action. Oh, which is very C-3PO. But anyway, so what I would do when I would get to set is, if I was working on a Star Wars set and I saw a droid walk in, what would I like to see him doing? It would be cool if he was like over at a console and he's reading knobs and little screens and making adjustments. That'd be cool to see. So I would tell my dresser, Dana, just do the whole thing, and then I'll wander onto set. Not when they're filming, but I hear cut, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna wander in and look around on the set like this. So I would do that, and we would have this really cool moment where the other actors feel a weird sense of disbelief because they grew up with Star Wars. They're seeing something that feels real. That, oh wow, so satisfying. When someone like Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka would come up to me and go, "This is so Star Wars," and I'm still in the costume, and why, thank you, and then they'd take off the helmet and she'd say, "Oh, Chris, it's you! Oh, I didn't know it was you. This is so cool." So I would do that with Carl. But really, what I'm doing is I'm working on character development. How do I move? What kind of things can I do? What things can I not do physically? And I would do that with Copper. I would wander on the set with all dressed. Then we go into rehearsals, still dressed. Then we would go into filming. And Carl stopped me, and he goes, "Chris, I want you to take off the mask." And I go, "Okay, take it off." And he goes, "I can hear all the emotion that you are giving in this scene as this character, but I can't see your face. And this is such a treasure." Carl said, "I want the audience to feel an emotional connection between our characters. So in order to do that, I need to have an emotional connection with you. So if you can take off the mask, we'll run through the rehearsals, the scene. Then when you put on the mask, I'll still see your face in my mind." I feel kind of emotional thinking about this because he's not with us, but what a gift that he gave me that he didn't have to. He could have come in and done, "Here's Carl Weathers," and then go and do whatever else. But he wasn't Carl Weathers. He was Carl Weathers, the actor and director, who, like I said, wanted to do this scene with me.
Respect.
Well, the whole season. Yes, so much respect for this treasure of man. And when I say, "Oh, I miss Carl Weathers," everybody misses Carl Weathers. And so it seems kind of, I feel silly saying that anyone could ever take me seriously. But we worked together every day on season 3. We worked together as other characters on the other seasons, and I just felt that this was such a gift. But everyone who was on the show, Brendan Wayne, who was in the suit for Mando, Pedro Pascal, Gina Carano, Werner Herzog, and later other actors like Ewan McGregor, all these people that I worked directly with in scenes were so happy to be there. And their love of this universe, that it made it such an unexpected pleasure. It was already a pleasure for me because I'm a 1977 nerd, but to be telling these stories for real with these people who were so talented and gifted and experienced, it was every dream come true. And then when I could surprise them, that was so satisfying. So
that's amazing.
Really a lot of fun, yeah.
And so what was it like working with Pedro? Do you have any fun story?
Yeah, season 2 of The Mandalorian, I play the teacher droid where I'm in front of a class. Mando drops off Grogu in this class of kids, and he ends up stealing cookies from his classmates. I am the teacher droid at the front of the class. And in this scene, this is the first time a protocol droid that looks or resembles C-3PO is on a Mando set. So I was just doing C-3PO's voice so people could relate to, it's a droid, what does that sound like? It'd be weird if I was like, "Attention class." And so I was just doing C-3PO's voice. And Mando I'm standing on this dais, and Mando is down below, and he walks up to me, and I think it's Brendan, and he takes off his helmet, and it's Pedro. So this is the first time we've worked together that I know of. And he goes, "Hey, have you done this before?" Like, he was like this little kid. And I go, he didn't know that I'd been playing C-3PO. And I just said, "Oh, yeah, I've done it a few times." And he goes, "Oh, you're really good. Hey, I'm Pedro." And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I know who you are. But it was so fun that he was just such a kid, and such a genuine pleasure to be there. And that was such a fun moment with him. Other people like Werner Herzog, I've told the story before, but he was our Alec Guinness on set. Alec Guinness was brought onto Star Wars, as George tells it, to bring gravity to what really was like an independent, film. And Werner Herzog was that kind of level. He's a legendary writer, director, and actor. And I was so excited to be in a real Star Wars narrative, and I'm dressed up to my neck as a droid, playing the bartender in season 1 of Mandalorian. And he and I are standing adjacent to each other. We're both watching a scene being filmed, and they say cut, and I just lean over real quiet, and I'm like, "Isn't this exciting?" And he goes,
"This is serious work. We are breathing life into characters which would not otherwise exist."
And I was like, yeah.
Duly noted.
Yeah, right. That's what I meant. But it was such a great masterclass in like, hey, we're working here.
Yeah.
Tamp down your fanboy.
Yeah.
Even though I was just really trying to be so subtle. But I loved that. I loved that I had that moment. I was like, yes, thank you for that. And gosh, I could go on. There's so many examples like that. With Carl, I mentioned he's a director. He was directing that scene where Pedro and I were in the classroom with Grogu. And I'm standing in front of this star map, and it's a clear, like a glass with lines on it. And they had those, the first time we saw those in Star Wars was on Hoth, where there's this white protocol droid who... you're seeing through the glass. He's going like this, on the star map. And I said to Carl, I was like, again, trying to tone down my fanboy. And I was like, hey, it'd be cool is if we swung the camera around and shot me through the glass. So the classroom's in the background. And he goes, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, we'll see." And I'm not saying that that's why they shot that. I'm just saying I mentioned that, and Carl was directing, and we got this really cool shot of me going like this, and I was like, "Oh, that's just what I wanted." Wow. And everything is a collaboration.
Yeah.
And everyone was open to ideas. That's something that John says. I know what actors want because actors want from a director. I know what a director wants from an actor because I've done both. And he goes, "Just come on time and know your material and come with ideas." And so I felt like safe to like share ideas even about things that were not things I had stewardship over. Wow. Which was my droid or my performance. I can make ideas about or share ideas about lighting or camera. And you got to be not precious about this stuff. Sure. Just think of yourself as little nerd Santa Claus dropping little presents, and people can keep them or they can re-gift them or they can throw them away or just not use them, whatever. And that's okay. I don't care. I'm just sharing because I love this. I love acting. I love characters. I love, character design and things like that. So anyway.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let's segue into, in the final act of this is AI. I kind of wanted to get your input because right now when I'm on Instagram, there's a couple accounts that I follow that are doing incredible stuff, like fan fiction type stuff. I watched one on Darth Vader the other day, and I'm like, wow. There's like a whole nother one of, it's like a Stormtrooper vlog, where it's just like the Stormtrooper daily day kind of things. And it's like, is there a fear that with AI that roles like yours will no longer be be there? Are they replaced by AI? What is your current thoughts on that?
Well, it's here. It's not going anywhere. Matthew McConaughey recently said, you could sit over here with your moral point of view and say that shouldn't exist. Meanwhile, it continues on like a freight train, and you're not, you're still sitting over here going, hey. But I like storytelling. I love it. I love that, I started out in graphic design right before or just as the Macintosh came out. So back then, before that, I was typesetting letters with rub-on decals and laying it out as headlines. And then when the Mac came out, anybody could do graphic design. There's a lot of crap, a lot of terrible stuff just because more people could do it. And anybody like your aunt could, jump on and lay out a magazine or whatever. It's a tool, but I don't have more than that. I would say you're going to see, I believe, the pendulum is going to continue swinging in that way, and you're going to see a lot of crap. You're going to see a lot of interesting stuff. I've seen a lot of concept art, and I have a lot of friends that are concept artists. And I think you're going to see the pendulum swing the other way where, yes, that exists. You can really see the soulless, non-human touch in a lot of stuff. And I think the more that humans are involved, the better and more quality it will be. But I think you're going to see the pendulum swing the other way, where you're going to see the higher value stuff is, it's like when CG. Remember,
Jurassic Park or.
Well, I love George Lucas. There was an era in the early 2000s where he was making films where it was all green screen. Every single element in the scene was CG. And you started to feel like, as an audience member, as an adult, as a kid, I was like, this is amazing. As an adult, like, oh, okay, that was made on a computer with very talented animators who, work really hard to make this as real as possible. But when you started seeing like on the Mandalorian, we had what's called the volume. And this was a supplement to practical filmmaking. So we would have practical sets. Imagine what it was like is you have all these, real practical elements, and then it's in front of like a TV screen, and the TV screen is like the background. It's a little blurry because it's depth of field. And, it's supplementing the scene. It's not replacing the scene. So I think that it's still very valuable, and I think people will see, they did that for real. That's why behind the scenes stuff is so important. Footage is so important to show like, wow, the work that went into this. And that's why I love that young people can see behind the scenes stuff. That's
almost my favorite content.
Yes, yeah. Really important to see people at work. Yeah. And a lot of people want to see on Instagram. It's great to see the work, but they want to see you at work.
Well, you know what I mean? Sitting at a computer prompting is not fun to watch the BTS. Watch how we made it.
Right, exactly, nope. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, no.
But the idea that it takes 1,000 times to get this AI scene exactly how you want it, when you could just have 5 people and some set dressing, make it for real. Yeah. In like 4 takes, it's a trade-off, right? Yeah. But I'm saying I think that it's a tool that can be used in ways. It's not going to go away. So
in your roles, you're not afraid that you're going to be replaced by AI.
I don't know. but you have to be able to adapt. So maybe, like when there was 3D animation, like Pixar, the early Pixar films, there were Disney animators who I've seen comment that were like, nope, I'm sticking to hand-drawn animation. And there were some who were like, I need to learn this to adapt.
Yep.
It's stagecoaches to cars.
Yeah.
It's
the moviola editing to nonlinear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if there was, you have to be able to adapt. To whatever makes sense for your involvement.
Or just know where the plugs are and unplug them, the computers.
Yeah, there you go. Right, yeah. But
AI.
Right.
What? Oh, I guess we got to do it the practical way.
I am currently working on my own film with Tim Martin and Daniel Bowman and Nick Mahar. We are making our own, and we're building practical. We're doing it all practical, and where we need to supplement it, not with AI, but if you have to do a green screen. I mean, we were using blue screen in different places on the Mandalorian and stuff. So to supplement what you're doing, but it's all real human beings in real costumes and props, and we all came from the practical world. So we're going to keep telling those stories.
Got into this to be able to engage with people, to create, and I can't imagine when I saw the AI thing starting to come out, there was part of me that was like, oh, I got to go learn this, and then I started messing with it and prompting, and I was like, this would be so awful if I got paid, $200,000 to make this movie, but I had to sit at a computer and prompt the entire thing. It would be awful, and I don't know if I would take that money. I mean, it would be nice, maybe I would do one episode.
Right.
But it's like, I love the ability to be engaging
on set.
This is why
interacting with human beings.
I think maybe the early this newer generation, because they grew up with all this, maybe they don't have a longing for that type. But I think on a conscious level, subconsciously, you can tell it's not human, and it'll get better and better. But I think ultimately, we know, right?
Yeah.
And so,
why have they still not been able to develop a robot that looks like a human being and moves exactly like a human being, so that you could believe that it's a human being? Because there's this uncanny valley of the soul that fills that if it's not a human behind it, there's something still special about creation by a human.
100%.
And we can relate to it.
100%.
Right?
It's funny, I'm reading The Bicentennial Man from Isaac Asimov right now, and this is that's the whole conversation of Andrew trying to become a human, and it's so interesting. I'm reading this, and now with what's going on, I'm like, holy fuck, this is so crazy.
Also, why did we design robots to look human? Why can't they look like R2-D2?
Right. Well, you can't have sex with it, right? I think a lot of it's the sex industry is where it pushes, and then it comes down to the consumer.
Lowest basis motivation.
I just want to say thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to plug, or anything that you would like to discuss as we part ways in this episode?
Gosh. Well, we didn't even get to talk about motorcycles, but that'd be fun. Yeah. I'm working on a couple. I worked on a comedy series last year that it's called Schmitty's Circuit. It's about a little robot, but I play an on-camera character, and that's in post-production right now. And then I'm working on my own film that it's all been what do you call it when you design the whole story?
Like developed, or
developed, and then we start filming at the end of the month.
Amazing.
We've already built the set and everything, and you'll be able to see some behind the scenes stuff that I post on my Instagram at Chris F. Bartlett. And then I'm also working on another film that is a road movie with motorcycles. So I'm excited about that. Actually, both films have motorcycle components, and because I got so many friends that are vintage motorcycle enthusiasts, and I've always wanted to make a road movie, so let's do that. If none of this interests a viewer, And you like motorcycles. I do have a separate Instagram that's Bartlett Motorcycles. It's not a brand or a company. It's just me posting stuff that I want to see, and doing a little bit of filmmaking.
It's really cool too. It's like period style too. It's not like road bikes, or it's very like you can look at it and get a nostalgia.
Yeah.
Which I love the vibe of that.
Oh,
Every time I
that's
look
cool.
at your page, I'm like, there's so much nostalgia. It's like it's like you're looking at a movie. you know?
Well, I want to play this character, and I want to see movies with old motorcycles, and that's what I'm putting up there. So I'm glad you like it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate your time and bringing in everything. We did get a chance to talk about some pretty cool stuff on this one, and just a big fan of everything you're doing and your story. And again, for someone who's trying to create my own way into this, when I was looking in your story, it was gave me a lot of confidence and excitement. And now we're hanging out, and you're a very cool individual. So
Thanks,
I really
Billy.
appreciate your time.
Yeah,
man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man. I'd love to come back.